ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। हरिः ॐ। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मले शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मः। We bow with folded hands before Maharshi Patanjali, the foremost among the sages, who removed the defect of mind with yoga, the defect of words with grammar, and the defect of body with medicines. Harihi Om. That was a prayer written by the ancient Bhojaraja in appreciation of Maharshi Patanjali's major contribution in the three distinct fields of science, namely the science of yoga, the science of grammar, and the science of medicine. Today is the 21st June. It is the International Yoga Day. And this morning, after a spell of some yoga practices here, it was decided that we all would gather here again in the afternoon to learn something about the very system of yoga, the yoga philosophy. And I have been asked to give an introductory talk about this subject, the Yoga Sutras, not on the Hatha Yoga, which we practiced this morning, but on the ancient system of yoga, the Ashtanga Yoga as it is called, that is the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. The system of yoga is a vast subject. Even an introduction to the ideas therein will be very encouraging to those who are interested in the yoga as an ancient philosophical and spiritual system. Though this yoga system existed long before Maharshi Patanjali, his exposition of the Yoga Sutras is considered as the textbook of the Ashtanga Yoga. By writing this monumental work, Patanjali was not trying to create a new system, not at all. Yoga as a system was already in existence, but he as a visionary could beautifully summarize that ancient scientific system of practice in an extremely organized and tight manner. That is the greatness of this work. The text of the Yoga Sutras is estimated as old as 400 BC. The archaeological evidences and inputs from various other Sanskrit texts, of course, reveal that the methods of Ashtanga Yoga, as suggested by Patanjali through his Yoga Sutras, were in practice from as early as 3000 BC. Such vast is the history of the Ashtanga Yoga. Today, yoga is a universally accepted subject. But this so very enchanting and popular subject as yoga that we practiced this morning should not be misunderstood as the Ashtanga Yoga. It comes under the scheme of what is known as the Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is only just a part of the larger yoga system. Hatha Yoga basically deals with asanas, pranayamas, with certain element of meditation and other kriyas to aid our physical and mental fitness. A great yogi by the name Gorakhnath, who was a disciple of Matsyendranath and who lived in AD 14th century, is said to have been the one who popularized this Hatha Yoga as we practiced it today. But yoga as a system is far more wider and deeper in subject. Its eightfold practices, known as Ashtanga Yoga, or better known as the 8 limbs of yoga, is a unique system as far as the practical spirituality of life is concerned. Yoga Sutras, though existed from time immemorial, it gained its popularity only towards the end of the 19th century. Today it is a system followed by thousands of people world over. In fact, the credit for this appeal and popularity of Yoga Sutras is largely due to Swami Vivekananda's lectures and writings on this subject at that period of the time. Swamiji felt that in this modern scientific age, the only system that can influence people would be something of a scientific nature, and the Yoga Sutras, found to be worthwhile and acceptable to a larger number of people than any other hardcore philosophy. With that conviction, along with essays and lectures on yoga, Swamiji also penned a new, crisp and descriptive translation of Yoga Sutras on the basis of Saint Vyasa's earlier commentary to it. He named this combined volume as the Raja Yoga. He also wrote a book on the Bhakti Yoga. This book of Swamiji, the Raja Yoga, has been a trendsetter in itself. Though there is the mention of Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, it was Vivekananda who used the term Raja Yoga for the first time as a system which is highly scientific and practical and can be used by all. Yoga as a system can be adopted by anybody, irrespective of caste, community, class, race or religion. That is how Swamiji introduced the Ashtanga Yoga or Yoga Sutras of Patanjali to a larger audience. This book, Raja Yoga, became a sensation in Swamiji's lifetime itself among the people of the West, and it instantly captured the attention of not only a large number of intellectuals but also even the ordinary people with some inner quest, who are of scientific temperament and who are looking for ideas of scientific nature for accomplishing some sort of spirituality in their day-to-day life. Another wonderful thing related to this is the introduction of the word meditation. Prior to Swamiji, the Sanskrit word dhyana was mostly translated into English as contemplation. Meditation word were used by some authors, but mostly it was contemplation that was used for dhyana. But Swamiji used the word meditation to mean dhyana, and later it found its way into everywhere. In fact, the word contemplation closely conveys the meaning of another Ashtanga Yoga term dharana, which means focusing steadily. Dharana means focusing steadily. Contemplation also means that. Dharana is a stage or a step earlier to dhyana in the Ashtanga Yoga. Yoga Sutras in nutshell outlines the science of the yogic way of meditation, which can be otherwise stated as the Raja Yoga method. The practice of Raja Yoga is extremely scientific and very much practical by nature. It can become complicated only if someone tries to mix it up with other yogas or combine it with various other unscientific practices. What does Ashtanga Yoga mean? Ashtanga Yoga is a process of systematically examining and countering and transcending each of the various gross and subtle levels of our identity as they appear in our mental field. This process of practice at the first stage should be carried out vigilantly on a regular basis until one attains to a state of mental calmness. That has to be practiced like that. Once such a mental equilibrium is gained, then one can swing into the state of meditation at will. In Yoga Sutras, the word yoga means to yoke or to unite. It can at first mean the very unity of all parts of ourselves, everything in our system. That is the first unity, and united progression by our entire system, both physical and mental. Secondly, yoga is the union of the individual with the universal. Both the individual and the universal, the microcosm and the macrocosm as we say about it, in the common parlance, they presumably look divided. They are unbelievably separate in existence. But yoga says that this so-called divide is largely caused by our own assumption, and this divide can be removed by the united Ashtanga practice of the yoga. That's what yoga is all about. The word yoga is derived from the Sanskrit root yuj. According to Panini's grammar, the root yuj has three derivations. Yuj samadho, yujir yogo rudhadi, yuj sanyamne churadihi. That is, yuj samadho means yoga is trance. Yoga takes you to samadhi. Yujir yoge rudadhi, which states yoga means being in union. And the third, yuj sanyamne churadihi, which means yoga is accomplishing self-restraint. In Rigveda, the word yoga is used to mean to yoke or to join or to come together. The Upanishads, the epics, and the Puranas use yoga to mean controlling body, controlling mind, controlling senses, and controlling the intellect. Various places they occur in different ways. According to the famous Sanskrit dictionary, you may be knowing, that is the Amarakosha. Yogaha Sannahanopayaha Sankati Dhyana Yuktishu. Yoga Sannahanopayaha Sankati Dhyana Yuktishu. That is the way they describe the yoga. Yoga is protection. Yoga is a path or way. It refers to a union or connection. It is meditation, and it stands for higher spiritual intelligence. Yoga means all this. Yoga means protection. Yoga means connecting or uniting. Yoga means meditation. And yoga also means the higher spiritual intelligence. In ancient Indian medical sciences, any medicinal formula is referred to as a yoga. A mixture of medicine is called some kind of yoga. In the social scenario also, all outcomes of life is referred to as yoga. Something happens to somebody because of his or her yoga. Yoga also is viewed as the harmonious mingling of two objects. All these show that yoga is used to mean both the means and the end. And so yoga word literally means to join, to unite. It is joining or absorbing oneself in the ultimate sense with the ultimate reality. Next, the next word. What is meant by sutra? Sutra is an aphorism. It's a very short composition with certain specific characters in it. A sutra can also mean a condensed manual. The meaning of sutra has been very clearly spelt in an ancient Sanskrit verse again. Alpaksharam asannigdam saravat vishwato mukham asthobamana vadyam cha sutram sutravido viduhu. That is the verse. According to the knowers of sutra, it tells the sutra composition essentially should be precise, not giving rise to any doubt, but presenting the essence of many thoughts coherently and blemishless. This is how the sutra word is beautifully explained. How do these sutras ultimately get at the real purpose of the book? In the simple language, the word sutra means a thread. A sutra means a thread. Either a single thread or a multiple unit of threads, when weaved in a tapestry of one's insight, it gives direct experience of what has been said in the sutra, and ultimately the subject discussed in the book. That great is the concept of sutra. You have a bundle of threads and you cogitate on what is told in that, and you realize the subject matter. Generally, people believe that yoga is a technique which bestows supernatural powers, which enables a man to perform superhuman feats. It's not so. Yoga is not gimmicks. It is a state of perfection. In the fifth mandala of the Rig Veda, in one of the suktas it is said, Yunjade manauta yunjade dhiyom vipra viprasya vrihado vipaschitaha vihotra dathe vayuna videka inmahi devasya savitu parishtutihi. That is the verse, if I remember well. A Vipra is a learned man. It says, the learned men fix their mind and intelligence on God. A learned man fix their mind and intelligence on God because they know that God alone is omniscient and glorious. He alone is to be adored. This indicates that more than anything, the men of higher intelligence do not care for anything less than the highest. This means the aim of yogic practices should not be wasted for the purpose of performing miracles or gimmicks. It should be aimed at the higher realities. Beyond the derivatory meaning of the word yoga, in scriptures the yoga has been divided in 5 different ways. We shall just look at a glance on them, then proceed. First, in the Yajnavalkya Samhita of the Shukla Yajurveda, where Yajnavalkya says, Sanyogo yogaha ityukto Jivatma Paramatmanoho. That is, Jivatma Paramatmanoho Samyogaha Yogaha. That is, yoga is union of the individual self with the Supreme Self. Second, in the Katha Upanishad. In Katha Upanishad, it is defined as Tam yoga iti manyata stiram indriya dharanam. Tam yoga iti manyata stiram indriya dharanam. You find it in the 2nd chapter of the Katha Upanishad. Yoga is regarded there as the effort to keep the senses steady, detached from worldly affairs. So, being steady is what is yoga. The third, in the Linga Purana, yoga is defined as yogo nirodha vritteshu chittasya dvijasattamaha. That is, yoga is a method to stop the mental differentiation. Chittasya dvijasattamaha. You see certain things, or you look at different people, they look differently, but you should know that their intrinsic feel is, or intrinsic quality is, they are all one. Fourth, in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna refers yoga at 2 places differently. He looks at from different perspectives. Yoga, karmasu kaushalam, samatvam yoga uchyate. They are the 2 contexts. Yoga, karmasu kaushalam, which means yoga is dexterity in action. Yoga is dexterity in action. Next, samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is equanimity. Equanimity is yoga. And the 5th definition of yoga is by Patanjali himself, which is the very 2nd sutra of the book. Yoga chittavritti nirodha. Yoga chittavritti nirodha. Yoga is restraining mind, or restraining the mind stuff, as Swami Vivekananda puts it, from taking various forms. People usually ask, is Ashtanga Yoga all about a meditative life? Ashtanga Yoga is not just all about meditation. Considering both metaphysical and physical aspect of human life, yoga system deals every situation both philosophically and practically. Philosophical questions bother the human mind as much as life's visible problems. The difference is, those philosophical questions do not surface when we are surrounded with pleasures and happiness of life. They arise only when we experience the typical pain of loss. Loss of some of our dear ones, loss of wealth, loss of business or loss of job, etc. They all can cause pain. A very peculiar aspect of our life is only when the physical world and the life in it becomes extremely painful, then alone we resort to the metaphysical. Physical and metaphysical do not go together. Very rarely. If they go together, you are a yogi. Patanjali takes both these physical and metaphysical aspects of life, and he speaks about why there is what is known as the pain. He also points out what are these pains, and again he suggests the methods to overcome these pains and the painful situations. That is the phenomenal aspect of Patanjali. He mentions that with continuous awareness and practice, one can overcome all painful situations. He deals it with the perspective of avidya, which is a philosophical subject which also he discusses later in detail. We are not going into it. Now let us ponder a little upon the major subjects of discussions in the Yoga Sutras. What are the main subjects dealt in the Yoga Sutras? It basically deals with three major subjects, and Patanjali calls them as Klesha, Chittavritti, Chitta Vikshepa. Klesha, Chittavritti, Chitta Vikshepa. First is the Klesha. Klesha means affliction, misery or distress. Distress, Patanjali says, are of five kinds. Avidya, due to avidya or ignorance. Due to asmita or egoism or egoism that we call. Due to raga or attachment. Due to dvesha or aversion, hatred, etc. And due to abhinivesha or due to clinging to one's own life. In other words, afraid of death. In the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, there are 195 sutras. They are spread in 4 chapters. Patanjali calls the chapters as padas, and these 4 chapters are Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada and Kaivalya Pada. The first chapter is the Samadhi Pada, which has got 51 sutras, and this chapter speaks about the immediate purpose of yoga. It also confirms the highest goal of human life, the attainment of samadhi or trance, in which one realizes one's union with the ultimate reality. The second chapter, Sadhana Pada, is of 55 sutras, and it discusses the method or methods to attain the goal ultimate. There the philosophical exposition of this goal is vivid, which can help a candidate of yoga to ponder on and reach to the ultimate goal. That is the second chapter. The third chapter, the Vibhuti Pada, is again of 55 sutras. It discusses about the supernatural powers which no doubt is attainable through certain intense practice. Such powers do come to a yogic practitioner, but then we are told by Patanjali that they have to be taken as only indications of one's progress in the sadhana. They cannot be taken to mean that I have got this vibhudis and I can hereafter show off it to the people. The fourth chapter, the Kaivalya Pada, is of 34 sutras. That's how it becomes 195 sutras. And this chapter largely describes about the nature of the ultimate goal of yoga. It gives clues of various stages that one attains or that one encounters in the path of samadhi. It also describes various samadhis. Patanjali says that these kleshas, these 5 kleshas, they are responsible or the root cause of all pain. The main feature of the pain is pain operates when we are alive. And it also operates, or it continues to operate even after one's death. Therefore, Patanjali suggests, talking about klesha, how to deal with it. He speaks about various methods to deal. The second subject is Chittavritti. In the first chapter, Patanjali starts his exposition of Yoga Sutras with this subject, that is Chittavritti. Chitta is here broadly spoken as mind. Functions of Chitta Vikshepa is limited to our lifetime. One thing good about is it doesn't follow the life after. That's what Patanjali says. But it causes impressions in life, and those impressions get attached with the earlier mentioned Chittavritti. So it doesn't leave, which in turn affects the sense organs, the mind and the intellect. Chitta Vikshepa is said as mental distraction that is acquired in this very life. It is acquired in various ways. It is acquired from the circumstances that we are born. It is acquired from the climate surrounding us. It is acquired from the people with whom we are associated. And most importantly, it is acquired from our reactions to various situations of life. Patanjali suggests methods to overcome all these 3 things, all the 3 subjects that he discussed: the kleshas, the chittavrittis, and the chitta vikshepas. Ashtanga Yoga deals with a lot many related subjects in detail. It's a great exposition, very scientific by nature and very practical in its approach. To the last, let us look into Patanjali's 8-fold practices, which we referred as the Ashtanga Yoga, or the 8 limbs as they are termed in the Yoga Sutras. They are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dharana, Samadhi. They are the 8-fold practices. We take each of them and look into precisely what they mean. We will take up them briefly. First, Yama. Yama is abstinences. Abstinence is don't do's. They are the most difficult thing to accomplish. Yama is stopping oneself from doing something that one enjoys most. What a difficult thing. This is a thing that people do not like to do. And that is the first reason why yoga becomes difficult to deal with at the first instance. In yoga, you need to practice abstinence. Second is niyama, opposite to yama, observances. Observances are positive duties to be taken up They are recommended activities and habits for a healthy living. That is, yamas are don'ts and niyamas are do's. That's what they are. Next comes the asana or posture. Out of this and the next anga have come out what we did in the morning, the Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is developed out of asana or the posture, and the next one what is known as pranayama. Asana is a posture that makes you very comfortable. Any asana is good. That's what yoga says. Patanjali does not describe more about asanas. And the next one is pranayama or breath control. It consists of synchronizing one's breath with moments between the asanas or breath involving with asanas. Both are possible. When you do asanas, you can do breathing, or in between you can do breathing. That's what briefly that Patanjali refers. The sixth one is dharana or contemplation. We have earlier seen it briefly that contemplation means holding the progression steadily. It's a stepping stone towards meditation. That's not allowing the mind get scattered away. That's what is contemplation. And the next one, the seventh one is dhyana or meditation. You all know something about meditation. Meditation is the ability to stay focused. Dhyana is a word derived from dhi, and dhyana is the next word. Dhi means mind here. Dhyana is moving or going. Dhi ayana, mind not going, or the mind is restricted from going here and there. Dhyana is therefore a refined meditative practice. Dhyana being the seventh stage in Ashtanga Yoga, it is advised only after one is done with the earlier 6 angas or limbs or the stages. This is where we are wrong today, taking up the meditation without achieving any preliminary exercises. We follow dhyana. All yama niyama, pranayama, asana, dharana, all are forgotten. Directly we get into meditation and mind doesn't stick there. And they say, I'm not able to meditate. How can you meditate when you don't follow yama niyamas? The last one is samadhi or trance. It's a pure alignment of oneself with the universal source. That's what samadhi is. Samadhi, Patanjali discusses its various stages. We are not getting into any of those details here. The Ashtanga or the 8 limbs of the practices in yoga that we have seen works very methodically. At first, it helps the removal of one's impurities. Then it kindles the discriminative knowledge which results in the removal of ignorance and misidentification. Finally, it reveals what one is and what one is not. It is what we call as the trance, the samadhi, the goal of the yoga. This much is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali in a nutshell. To understand Yoga Sutras means to understand the life and to understand the phenomenon associated with it. It conveys the philosophy of overcoming pain and sufferings of life. It conveys simultaneously the process of total integration of life by the attainment of what Patanjali calls it Viveka Khyadi, which is the right type of knowledge achieved through constant practice. If we can apply these strategies that Patanjali places before us in our day-to-day life, they would help us to overcome all our psychophysical problems and also help us to lead a meaningful life. Thank you and wish you all a wonderful yoga day.